Hello. Today's custom model is going to be Trazyn the Traveler. This is going to be 3D printed out of resin, and we're going to give it a very nice paint job. The art is based off of Pedro Nunez, which is the art from the Codex. This is going to be our supplies for today. I wouldn't pay too much attention here though, because halfway through it gets weird and I mess up and go totally different way. This is our model. I got it off of Cults, but at the time of filming this, going back and checking stuff, it is no longer available. So if you want it, you're going to have to get on some Facebook groups, some Necron groups, talk around, share some files. You know how that goes. So here's the files on the plate. It fits really well for being a big chunky guy. I was able to get every single piece on my Creality. No problem. The only thing I'd say is you probably are going to need some extra supports on the little fiddly hoses and pipes, just because, yeah, they're thin. Unfortunately, I didn't get any pictures getting it out of the vat, but that's okay. Here it is assembled. Went together like butter. It's a beautiful model, really well designed. Everything slots perfect. It looks good, and even the size that it's already scaled to, I think it's perfect. I had to put it on a 60mm base, but I think if you tried to fit it on a 40, it wouldn't look right. He'd look like a little tiny dude. Anything bigger is unnecessary, and there's no way you're getting him on that 32 that Trazyn is usually on. And here we go. This is just cheap craft black paint, matte finish. I like to water it down just a little bit, just to make sure it gets in all the recesses and all the little, holes and porous spots where it's kind of hard to get spray type paints in there. That's the only reason I prefer to use this watery stuff, is it just gets everywhere. Next, we're just going to do a nice dry brush of lead belcher. I tend to use lead belcher just because that's the one I like the most. Kind of has like a dull metallic finish to it that shows age and wear better than the others, and I kind of stick to it. There is a little defect on the back of this model, but that was my fault. I laid it flat while it was drying, and a little bit of resin pooled up, and it kind of formed a little crest. And halfway through, I get fed up with it, and I chop it and sand it down good. So originally, this is the color palette I'm going for. This is my Silent King, and it's kind of the traditional painted like the box art. Maybe a little more glowy effect than the box art, but I love how it turned out, so I was going to try to match my Trazyn to match him. So, next is just metallics. Gonna go and bring on the bright spots. I believe this is Runefang Steel. So the only things we're gonna really do here are like the things we need, like more polished aluminum and brass and gold. I prefer to use just the Vallejo brass because it is so bright and bold, and it pops against anything dark. But any kind of gold or anything like that works. I'm going black over these pylons just because I intended to dry brush these later with some hard contrast white. So when I lay contrast paint over it, you get that poppy, really bright effect to it. The two more different colors contrast paint goes over it, the better it tends to look. Now I'm just washing over all my metallics to trying to get more detail back into it. And then after looking at the art in my codex for half the day, I decided to start over. I know if you're an artist and a maker and a creator like me, this happens every once in a while. I was just like, why on earth wouldn't I do it exactly like the artwork? Like, why am I even trying to match my other models? So let's start over. Let's get back to the brushed metal finish. We'll ignore going the next step for the metallics and go straight into doing the colors. So I'm starting off with a dark, pale, forest-like green. It's like a forest with a little bit of olive in it. Just to get it kind of pale and gross looking, because if you see the artwork, it has like this very particular aqua greenish tone to it. It's not like that traditional Necron bright yellow lime green. So all I'm doing is working up my tones, taking more light blue every time to the green that I've already mixed on my wet palette. So every time I do a new color, you know, I'm getting closer to the lighting source. I'm sticking away from the edges, and I'm just getting a little bit brighter color every single time. This is actually a color that kind of lends itself well to adding very small amounts of white to, just because it's a pale, sickly kind of green. It's not like that bright, fluorescent, light source type of green. So most times you wouldn't want to put in white because you're going to desaturate it and kind of pale it to the point where it doesn't really look like the color anymore. But in here it kind of works, as long as you don't go too crazy too fast. Now we kind of see the effect coming through. And you know, just I also wanted to do it like this because I do airbrush work, but I wanted to illustrate that it's very easy to achieve this lighting effect with even just a very basic brush and just an understanding of how it works and how the colors work on it. No airbrush or no crazy tools required. Now we're getting to that higher tone, closer to the really wider, palish green. I do think at one point I didn't like exactly how bright it was, so we're gonna come back with some tones and a little bit of wash here in a little bit. Yeah, here we go. I did a light Nuln Oil wash over just to get some of the details back. Some of the recesses I had painted in were kind of losing their look around the edges. So you know, if you go too far, just go back a step, throw some Nuln Oil in there, and then I'll start rebuilding them colors a little bit again. And now we're getting close to the end. This is kind of the detail lighting step. I'm taking a little bit brighter color and throwing a little bit of that lime green and a little bit more white in there to kind of get the highest tone we've seen so far. And it's almost like an edge highlighting, but taking the tips and the edges and anywhere you think like the highest amount is going to really catch a corner, and just kind of putting some, I mean, these aren't exactly straight lines, but you know, little bits of light and paint and speckles here and there, just to sell the effect of the light a little bit better. Some edge highlighting on the steps always helps, gives it a little more detail, going around those pylons, upper edges. And that nice specular highlighting really sells the effect that this is producing light in a dark place. And now we got to do the same exact thing to the backside, because, you know, instead of doing it all at once, I forgot. Now this is one of those do as I say, not as I do, because, oh man, doing this section I was just getting really impatient with the center of that big green orb. And every time I'd go in there, I'd go in there a little too early before the paint was completely dried, and every time I'd rip the paint in the center. So every time I'd have to re-establish the color and get it nice and even, and then work it back out. So a process that should have, taken 30 minutes max, and just doing it once in each step. Yeah, I probably took it close to an hour doing that one step, just because, man, I just couldn't touch it. I kept ripping the center of that dang thing. Now we're just catching some more details. We have all these little runes in the front of the throne, and making sure you can see all of them, putting a little more lighting, specular lighting spots here and there. Now this step is going to be a preference thing. The one thing I kind of really liked for my Silent King was all that Tesseract glow paint that you put on lightning bolts at the bottom to show that it's floating in the air, using that Necron energy. And I kind of liked it. I thought that by doing that in the lightning, it wouldn't distract too much from the top of the model, since that's where most of the focus is anyway. But I'm going to agree this is a preference thing. It is quite bright. It is a stark effect compared to the effect that's up top. I could have easily did the same effect in the lightning and been just as successful. Okay, on this step, I thought that I was losing some of those green midtones, so I took that green midtone that I have probably halfway through going up the chain of colors, and I just washed it out a little bit. I mixed it with some water, got it real thin. And the areas where I thought that I just needed a little more color, a little more green to show the glow, just went in there a little bit. And then as it dries, it lightens up and kind of blends back into the background. I just kind of thought it needed a little more color here and there. Here's that beautiful artwork again that was the inspiration for this piece. And here is what we came up with. So the only real difference is a little DSLR, some harsh lighting, and a filter. And there you go. But this is our fully painted model in proper lighting, so you can really see what it looks like. Yeah, the lightning effect. I totally understand that that'll be a preference. I love how the rest of the palette turned out. It's a little on the white side compared to how deep you could go with the greens, but I think that's okay. I think it still sells the beautiful lighting effect compared to the rest of the piece. And like I said at the beginning of this video, you can't find this model anymore on Cults. And to the artist that made this model, man, I've always loved all your work. You make some great stuff, and just stick with it. If you have to find another source or do a Patreon or a Google Drive or something, you will have support out there, buddy. But other than that, if you get on the Facebooks and you join the Necron group, maybe you'll get lucky and find it. Thanks for your support. Thanks for making it this far. If you can give me a like and subscribe, I'm a new channel, and I really appreciate it, and I'll see you next time.